The snow was falling quietly over Winterfell when the raven came. It was not the kind of message Ned Stark was expecting. The seal was foreign to Targaryen, not Baratheon. He opened the scroll carefully. The words were few, but heavy. Lord Eddard Stark, you are summoned to Dragonstone. I need a hand who can speak truth to power, not one who seeks it. Daenerys Stormborn. Ned read the letter twice. Then, once more, he looked at Maester Luwin, who only nodded. She has taken the throne, the old man said softly, and the war is already over. Whispers had come north. Targaryen had crossed the narrow sea with dragons, fire, and fury. King's Landing had fallen faster than anyone thought. Cersei was dead. Jaime too. Robert had died hunting a boar weeks earlier. The Baratheon line was broken. She had spared the people, they said, but she had burned the Red Keep. It was all too fast, too strange, and too dangerous. Catelyn didn't trust it. A Targaryen asking a Stark for loyalty. Your father trusted one. He died screaming. But Ned Stark wasn't like his father. He had seen too much war, too much blood, and he had heard rumors Daenerys had freed slaves in Essos-ended wars, and listened to her people. Some called her the Breaker of Chains. Others called her the Mad King's daughter. Still, Ned remembered what honor demanded. I must go, he told Catelyn. If she rules now, I need to know what kind of queen she truly is. 2 weeks later, he arrived at Dragonstone. The castle was strange black stone and old fire magic. But it was the woman waiting at the top of the stairs who caught his eye. Daenerys Targaryen was younger than he expected, dressed in dark red, silver hair braided behind her back. A small black dragon perched on her shoulder. Its eyes glowed gold, and it hissed when Ned approached. You are not what I expected, she said. First. Ned bowed his head slightly. And you are not your father. She smiled a little. I try not to be. That was how it began. Daenerys didn't sit on a throne of swords. She had not yet gone to the capital. She wanted to rule differently, carefully, but she needed someone who could tell her the truth, even if it hurt. I need someone who does not fear me, she said. I've heard that is you. I fear for the realm, Ned replied, not for myself. That night, they spoke long into the evening about war, peace, justice, about Jon Arryn, who had died suddenly in the capital, about the Lannisters, the North, and the truth of the realm. Ned listened more than he spoke, but when he did, Daenerys listened back. He told her about the lies that ruled Westeros, about how houses played games while small folk starved, about how honor had become a joke in the South, and she told him of slavery, of betrayal, of love and loss, of what it felt like to walk into fire and live by the end of the week. She named him Hand of the Queen. Ser Jorah was angry. She needs fighters, not frozen lords from the north. Tyrion, who had only just joined her from exile, raised his eyebrows. Better a frozen lord than a flaming fool. But Daenerys was firm. Eddard Stark is not here to please me, she said. He is here to stop me from becoming what my father was. And that was the beginning of something new. In the months that followed, Ned traveled with her to King's Landing. The people were silent when they arrived. No cheers, just fear. The scent of smoke still hung in the air from the Red Keeps. Ruined. Ned stood beside her as she walked through the ash. You shouldn't have burned it, he said. She didn't answer at first. Then quietly, I know. That night, he saw her cry for the first time. And for the first time, Ned Stark thought, maybe she could rule well. Maybe fire and ice could find balance, but the real test had not yet come, for winter was still coming, and the north did not. Forget Winterfell looked the same as he had left it, strong, proud, cold, but something inside Ned Stark felt different when he returned, this time not as Warden of the North, but as Hand of the Queen, a Targaryen queen. The ravens had flown. Ahead, the banners had warned the people. And yet, the courtyard still fell into silence when the black and red sigil of House Targaryen entered behind the direwolf. Daenerys walked with slow steps, her face calm but watchful. Beside her, her dragon, now larger, sharper, and more menacing, circled once in the sky, casting a shadow that made children scream and old men pray. Sansa stood near the steps, jaw tight. Arya was at her side, eyes sharp as blades. Bran was nowhere to be seen. Jon Snow stepped forward. He wore the black still, though he had long returned from the wall. His sword hung at his side, Longclaw resting gently in its sheath. He looked at Daenerys first, then at Ned. "You brought her here." Jon's voice was soft, but it held weight. "I brought the Queen here," Ned said carefully, "because she needs to know the North, and the North needs to know her." Jon's eyes narrowed. The North remembers. Daenerys stepped forward now, stopping just in front of him. "Then remember, this I am not my father. I do not burn cities for sport. I do not kill without reason. I am here to unite Westeros, not conquer it." "Funny," Arya muttered under her breath. "That's what conquerors always say." Sansa didn't smile. "And yet the Red Keep is ash." The silence that followed was heavy, but Ned broke it. "Let her prove herself," he said, "not with fire, but with truth." That night, a feast was held. A quiet one. The great hall felt colder than usual. Ghost sat near the doors, watching everyone with his red eyes. Jon avoided the Queen's gaze. Arya disappeared midway, as she always did. Bran stayed in his chambers. Only Sansa remained, playing the part of the lady of the house. She asked questions. She listened to answers. But she gave nothing away. Daenerys tried to smile, but it faded fast. "They don't trust me," she said to Ned later, as they walked along the walls of the castle, snow falling lightly on her silver hair. "They don't know you," Ned replied. She looked out into the dark. "Will they ever?" He was quiet for a moment. "Then they didn't trust Robert either, or Aerys, or any Southern king. You're not the exception. You're just ... another crown." Her eyes flicked toward him. "Am I just another crown to you?" He met her gaze. "You are a queen. But if you want to be more, you must bleed for this land like its people do, not just burn for it." The next morning, Daenerys did something no one expected. She left her dragon behind and walked alone to the winter town, with only Missandei and Ned's steward. She spent the day in the snow, speaking to butchers, weavers, stable boys, and smiths. She warmed her hands near their fires. She asked them about their work, their children, their hunger. She helped lift a fallen cart, her cloak dragging in the mud. Whispers spread. The Targaryen girl had no guards. She helped a sick baby. She gave her own cloak to an old woman. She laughed with the children and didn't flinch when one of them touched her silver hair by nightfall. The streets were still, but the people spoke of her with curiosity, some even with respect. When she returned to the castle, Jon was waiting. "You walked alone," he said. "I needed to see it," she replied. "The cold, the hunger, the fear in their eyes. He nodded. "Now you've seen the North. I want to protect it," she said. "But I will not force it." For the first time, Jon Snow believed her. Days passed. Then weeks. Winterfell changed. Arya watched Daenerys during training and asked questions about fighting in Essos. Sansa still remained distant, but she had stopped sharpening her words like knives. Bran finally came down from the tower and stared at her with those distant, eerie eyes. "You have fire inside you," Bran said one night during supper, loud enough for everyone to hear. "But be careful. Fire always hungers." The words chilled her more than the snow. But the most unexpected change was between her and Jon. They rode together often now, spoke about duty, about pain, about being alone even when surrounded by people. Two bastards of the world, though one had dragons and the other a wolf. And one night, Jon asked, "If you had come without fire, no dragons, no army, would you still want the throne?" Daenerys didn't answer right away. Then softly, "I would want peace, whether it came with a crown or not." Jon nodded, but something flickered in his eyes. Something that made her pause. But peace never lasts long in Westeros. A raven came. From the wall, the dead were moving, fast, unstoppable. The Night King had broken through East Watch, and the true war, the one Daenerys never believed until now, had begun. She stood before the great hall the next morning. "I came to claim a throne," she told the Northerners, "but now I fight for your survival. If I must die with you to stop what's coming, then I will." It wasn't a speech. It wasn't planned. It was just the truth. And for the first time, the hall was not silent. There were nods, then fists on tables, then a quiet cheer that rose like a distant storm. Even Sansa smiled, just slightly, and Ned Stark, standing by her side, whispered under his breath, "Perhaps this time, Westeros will not bleed in vain." The snows fell harder now. Winds howled through the north, like wolves mourning something still alive, but soon to die. Winter had truly come, and with it, the dead. Ravens flew every day from the wall, each one bringing darker news. Villagers lost, rangers slaughtered, men risen again, their eyes blue and soulless. Even those who had never seen the enemy now believed. Stood atop the battlements of Winterfell, wrapped in a fur cloak gifted by Sansa. Her dragons circled far above. Even they felt it, the cold they couldn't melt, the silence that swallowed sound. Jon stood beside her, jaw clenched. "They're not walking south, they're storming." She nodded. "Then we won't wait for them. We'll meet them halfway." Ned stood behind them both. "You speak like Robert once did, rushing into a fight just to taste glory." Daenerys turned slightly. "This isn't for glory, it's for survival." But Jon said nothing. He was staring at the flames in the distance, faint and flickering. Campfires of the first wave of refugees moving south from the wall. They brought stories that froze even Arya's blood. A boy of 10 had watched his mother die twice. First, when she was stabbed by a white bed, then again when she opened her eyes and tried to eat him. There were too many of these stories, and not enough swords. A council was called. Lords from the Vale, the Riverlands, and even a few Ironborn came. The Targaryen queen had sent ravens, not demanding loyalty, but asking for help. Some answered, some refused, but enough came to fill Winterfell's walls with more men than it had seen in centuries. Gendry Baratheon, newly legitimized by herself. arrived with blacksmiths and fresh-forged weapons of dragon glass from Dragonstone. Samwell Tarly brought ancient scrolls, a broken Valyrian sword, and a secret heavy as winter itself. When Sam entered Ned's chambers alone one night, his hands shook as he held the scroll out. "This changes everything," he whispered. Ned took it, read it once, then again. His hand slowly fell to the table. Rhaegar. Targaryen had annulled his marriage. He had married Lyanna Stark in secret, and Jon Snow was not a Snow at all. Aegon Targaryen, rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Ned stared into the fire for a long time. That night he remembered the Tower of Joy, the blood, the cries, the promise he made to his dying sister, to protect her son, to raise him as his own, without revealing the truth. Not even to Catelyn, not even to Jon. He had borne the weight of that lie for 2 decades, and now it sat in his lap, ready to burn the fragile peace he had helped create. He summoned Sam again. "Then Bran, I need you both to swear," he said. "This secret cannot be used like a sword." Bran's voice was empty. "It is not a sword. It is a fire, and it will spread, whether you like it or not." Ned turned to Sam. "If I tell Daenerys, she will not forgive it. Not the truth, not the threat. She has to know," Sam said quietly. "Don't you think Jon deserves the truth? Your sister gave her life for it." Ned nodded slowly. "Then we tell them both, but together." Jon didn't believe it at first. His face turned pale, then red, then blank. "I'm Targaryen." His voice cracked like ice underfoot. Daenerys stared at the scroll, then at Ned, then at Jon. "Your father lied to me." "You lied to me. I was protecting you," Ned said. "And him." Daenerys backed away, breath shaking. "All this time, I thought I was the last. I thought the throne was mine. And now I find out it belongs to someone who never even wanted it." Jon tried to speak. "I don't want it. I never have. But the people will want you," she snapped. "They already follow you. They love you. You fight for them, not above them. You're everything I've tried to be." The silence that followed cracked something in the air. It wasn't anger. It was fear. Fear that everything they'd built, the fragile trust, the fragile alliance, about to shatter. Daenerys turned to Ned, tears in her eyes. "You should have burned that secret." Ned looked away. Secrets always burn eventually. Preparations for war continued, but now the halls felt colder than the wind outside, and Jon barely spoke. When they did, it was clipped, formal. They stood side by side during planning meetings, but never looked at each other. Tyrion noticed first. "This war was supposed to unite us. Now it's tearing you apart." Daenerys didn't answer. Her dragon let out a low growl, echoing the storm in her chest. Arya cornered Jon days later. "You're still our brother," she said. "I'm not," he replied, not meeting her eyes. "You are to me," she said. "But you'll have to choose one way or another." Then the horns blew. 3 long notes. The dead were near. Jon stood on the walls, staring into the white haze. Thousands of whites, giants, and above them, a dragon. Viserion undead, wings torn but still strong, mouth glowing with blue fire. Daenerys stepped beside him. "We fight together," she said. Jon nodded, and after, she looked at him. For a long moment, then whispered, "If there is an after, we'll see what we're fighting for." Ned Stark stood behind them both. 2 children born of fire and frost, bound by blood, by duty, and now divided by truth. As the first wave of the dead struck the walls of Winterfell, he realized this war wasn't just for the living, it was for their souls. The first dead man that touched Winterfell's gates had no face left, just frozen skin peeling from bone, and fingers that clawed like he still remembered what it meant to hate. The living did not have time to speak. They only screamed. The Night King didn't attack like a brute. He attacked like a storm, quiet first, then sudden. His whites moved faster than expected, slamming against the walls in waves. Not caring for pain or fear or arrows in the eye, Ned stood on the second wall, commanding archers with ice in his veins. His sword was already wet with blackened blood. Even at his age, he fought like a man who knew death too well to fear it. Jon led the front gates. Grey Worm and the Unsullied stood with him, shields locked, spears ready. Gendry and the Northern Smiths had armed every fighter with dragonglass blades. It glowed faintly in their hands, as if the dead could feel its hate. Arya moved in shadows. No one saw her strike. Only the bodies that dropped like strings had been cut. But it was Daenerys who came from the sky. Drogon roared above them, fire lighting the black night. Whole clusters of whites melted in seconds. Her hair whipped in the wind, her eyes cold, her mouth whispering Dracarys again and again. But it was not enough for every white burned. 2 more climbed the walls. The north was drowning in snow, and death was inside the gates now. Bran had been moved to the Godswood, protected by Theon and a small guard. The ancient weirwood tree stood like a last breath of peace. But even there, the wind screamed. Bran sat under the tree, eyes rolled back, his soul flying through the minds of ravens. "They're searching," he whispered to Theon. "The Night King isn't hunting a castle, he's hunting me." Theon looked at him with guilt behind his eyes. "I stole this place from you," he said. Bran smiled, distant. "You didn't steal anything, you were just lost, like everyone else." Then his voice dropped lower. "He's coming here." In the main courtyard, Jon fought side by side with Jorah Mormont. The old knight had taken wound after wound, but still swung his blade like a man trying to protect a memory. Suddenly, the whites fell back. A silence fell thick and sharp. Jon turned and saw it. The Night King. He walked slowly through the outer gate, past the fire, past the screams, past the dead. Blue eyes locked on Bran's direction, and behind him, the reanimated corpse of Viserion hovered in the air, mouth glowing with a blue flame that made Dragon roar above in rage. Daenerys saw it too. She dove Dragon screaming beneath her. Fire poured across the field. The Night King stood in the center of it and didn't burn. Not this time. He raised his hand. The dead rose again. Men who had just fallen to protect their homes, now turned with dead eyes and empty souls. Jorah screamed. Grey Worm fell. Even Lyanna Mormont, half crushed by a white giant she'd killed with her last breath, stood up again. Her tiny frame now filled with ice and hate. Ned found Jon among the dead, blood on his face, breath shallow. "We have to fall back," Jon shouted. "We can't hold the Godswood." Ned shouted back. "He's coming for Bran. Then we end it there," Jon said. Now, Ned didn't ask questions. He simply nodded, turned, and gathered the remaining soldiers to clear a path. But he knew they were too few now. Every step to the Godswood would cost lives, so he made a choice. He sent Arya and Jon ahead with 12 men, and he stayed behind. He fought like a Stark, like a man who had nothing else to give but his death. His last sight was Jon and Arya vanishing into the trees. Then the dead swallowed him. In the Godswood Bran sat unmoving. Theon fought like a man possessed, killing until his spear shattered. Then the Night King arrived. He stepped through the snow like death made flesh. Viserion circled above, shrieking blue hell into the skies. The tree whispered with ancient wind. Theon charged. The Night King didn't flinch. Theon died with a blade through his chest. A warrior's death for a life full of shame, and still Bran sat. Arya was gone, lost in the fight. Jon stepped forward, alone, sword drawn. The Night King turned. They stared at each other, one born of fire and blood, the other of ice and death. Jon screamed, raised Longclaw, but the Night King raised his hand, and Viserion dove, but from the shadows another shadow moved, silent, fast. Arya, she leaped through the air, dragonglass blade in hand. The Night King turned and caught her by the throat, but her hand dropped the blade, caught it with the other dot, and drove it deep into his chest. The Night King shattered like ice under a hammer. Every wight dropped instantly. Even Viserion fell from the sky, dead for the second time. After the battle, dawn came like it had been gone for 1,000 years. The courtyard was filled with smoke and silence. Daenerys walked among the bodies. Searching, she found Jorah. She fell beside him, crying not like a queen, but like a girl who had just lost her last piece of home. Jon found Arya kneeling at Bran's side. "You saved us all," he said. "No," Arya whispered. "We all did." But when Jon asked for Ned, they found only his sword, broken, buried in snow. The dead were gone, but the silence they left behind in Winterfell was worse. No music, no celebration, just broken walls, melted snow, and the smell of burned flesh. Survivors walked like ghosts themselves, speaking in low voices, eyes hollow. The war had been won, but not cleanly. Ned Stark was gone. Daenerys had wept for him, not in front of the lords, not in front of Jon, but alone, in the chamber where he had last spoken to her. He had left her a single note. "Protect them, even from yourself." She folded the parchment, placed it in her sleeve, and didn't speak of it again. Jon stood at the crypt of Lyanna Stark. He hadn't said a word since the battle ended. Not about the Night King, not about Ned, not about what came next. Only Arya, and Sam stood beside him now. "You have to tell them," Sam said. "No," Arya snapped. "Why? Why now? Let the world believe she's the queen. Let it end here. We earned peace." "She can't rule alone," Sam argued. "The lords will whisper, they'll doubt. The truth will come out anyway. Better from his lips than theirs." Jon looked at the statue of his mother. "She died so I'd be safe. He lied for me. And now everyone I love is dying because of that lie." "But you're the rightful heir," Sam said. "I don't care," Jon whispered. "I never wanted the throne." Arya crossed her arms. "She does." That silence hung like frost between them. 3 days later, the council was called. Lords and ladies gathered in the great hall of Winterfell, what was left of it. Sansa stood at the head table. Bran watched from his wheeled chair. Arya stood beside Gendry, who still bore fresh bruises from battle. Daenerys arrived last. She wore black again, her crown simple but sharp. Her silver hair was braided in the Valyrian style of conquerors. Her dragon remained outside the walls, resting in the snow like a coiled flame. "My lords," she said, voice steady, The war against the dead is over. Westeros still lives, and I intend to make sure it never falls again." She let the silence sit. Then, but it must be united. Truly, no more broken kingdoms, no more divided banners. Sansa stood slowly. And who leads this united realm? Daenerys met her eyes. "I do." Murmurs rose. But before anyone could speak again, Jon stood and said the one thing Daenerys feared. "She is not the last Targaryen." The hall fell into stunned silence. Jon's voice didn't shake. "My name is Aegon Targaryen, son of Rhaegar, born of Lyanna Stark. I never knew, not until now. I never wanted a crown, and I still don't, but I will not lie. Not anymore." Daenerys didn't look at him. She looked at the floor. Tyrion closed his eyes. The realm tore itself apart again in a single night. Some lords bent the knee to Daenerys, insisting she had earned the throne with fire and blood. Others now looked to Jon, a man who never lied, a warrior who bled beside them, a king who never asked to be crowned in the war room. Tyrion tried to play the game. "If you marry him," he said, "you keep the throne. You silence every doubt." Daenerys stared at the map. "And give him power over me. I'm not a girl playing queen in Moran anymore, Tyrion. I am the dragon. I was born to rule. He doesn't want power. Doesn't matter. Power will want him." Tyrion was quiet. Then softly, "What would Ned Stark tell you to do?" Her jaw clenched. "He'd tell me to burn the truth before it burns everything else." That night, she found Jon in the Godswood. The snow had stopped falling. The air was still. The old weirwood tree stood red against the white. She didn't speak at first. Then, "Do you remember the first time we rode together?" Jon nodded. "You made me feel like I wasn't a bastard. You made me feel like I wasn't alone," she said. Then she stepped closer. "I loved you, Jon Snow." He didn't answer. "And now I see that I was only a page in your story. Just like I was in Drogo's, in Jorah's, in everyone's. I am always the queen until a better one appears." "You're wrong," he said quietly. "You're not just a page. You're the fire. Without you, we would have all died. You saved this world." She stepped even closer. "Then let me keep saving it. With you." But Jon looked down. "The people don't want me, but they won't stop looking at me. And you'll never feel safe while I breathe." Her eyes glistened. "Then leave, disappear, go north. Let them follow me." He looked up at her. "Would you let me go?" She didn't answer, because they both knew the truth. Sansa came to her the next day. "I won't kneel," she said. "Not to a queen who sees my brother as a threat." "We're never going to kneel," Daenerys replied. "You were always going to fight me." "Because I'm not from the north." Sansa stepped closer. "No, because you're already turning into the thing we killed." Daenerys narrowed her eyes. "Say it. You're becoming your father." The slap was loud, and the room went cold. Later, Daenerys stood before the Iron Throne knot in the Red Keep, but in her chamber in Winterfell, staring at the miniature her advisors had made from melted dragonglass. She touched it once, then turned to Missandei. "Tell the Unsullied to ready." "The march?" "Where?" Missandei asked. Daenerys stared out the window. King's Landing. The snow had melted by the time Daenerys reached the gates of King's Landing. She had not marched with a conquering army, but with survivors. The Unsullied marched beside what remained of the northern men. Gendry led the Riverlands. Yara Greyjoy sailed off the coast, her black sails ready to blockade the bay. Drogon flew above, casting long shadows that made mothers hide their children and old men whisper Targaryen prayers they hadn't spoken since childhood. King's Landing was broken still, half-ruined from Cersei's madness. Smoke still buried in the stones. But it stood, and now Daenerys meant to claim it with no crown, no fanfare, no joy, doth fire. She walked through the streets unchallenged. No golden cloaks, no resistance. She passed the great sept's rubble, past the burned red keep. At the center of it all stood the iron throne, still twisted and ugly, cold and sharp like the history it carried, and she sat on it, not smiling, not weeping, just breathing. Jon arrived a day later. He hadn't ridden at the front. He hadn't stood beside her during the march. He had stayed back, trying to keep peace between northern bannermen who no longer trusted the queen they had once bled beside. Sansa had not come. Arya had disappeared again. Bran had returned to the north, saying only, "This story doesn't end with a throne." Now, Jon stood in the ashes of the Red Keep, staring at the woman he once believed would change the world for good. She looked up as he entered. "No crown?" she asked softly. "I never wore one," he replied. She rose. The hall around them was empty, just the two of them. No guards, no dragons, no war left to fight. "I did what I had to do," Daenerys said. "They wouldn't follow peace. They only understand strength." "You sound like Ares." Her face hardened. "He burned people to feel power. I burn to destroy those who hoard it." Jon stepped closer. "What happens next?" She looked toward the city beyond. "We rebuild. We rewrite the laws. No more lords. No more lies. A new world." Jon's jaw tightened. Built on ash. She looked at him, then not as a queen, but as a woman who had nothing left but a dream. "Afraid of me?" she said. "No," he replied. "I'm afraid of what you'll become." There was silence again. Then Jon said the words that shattered her. "I can't follow you." That night, Tyrion found Jon pacing in the war room, still dressed in travel leathers, sword by his side. "She never stop," Tyrion said. "You know it." "I know," Jon whispered. "She will burn more cities if they disobey. She'll crush every lord that questions her. And you shall keep you close because she fears what you represent." "Her blood." "No," Tyrion corrected him. "You're her rival. Even if you don't want it, the world will never let you just be." Jon sat down hard, rubbing his face. "I don't want the throne, and I didn't want to kill my sister," Tyrion said. "But here we are." Jon looked up. "You're asking me to murder her." "I'm asking you to end a war before it starts." Jon stood slowly. "You should have let Ned Stark stay in the north. None of this would have happened." Tyrion smiled bitterly. He tried. The realm pulled him in anyway. Daenerys stood before the throne again at dawn. Dragon lay curled nearby. Massive wings spread across the courtyard like a living mountain. She reached out and touched the steel. It was colder than she expected. Then she turned on. Jon was there. He looked tired, hollow, like something inside him had already died. "I came to say goodbye," he said. She stepped down from the throne. "You came to kneel. I came to set you free." She stopped. "What does that mean?" Jon stepped forward, close enough to touch her. "You wanted to break the wheel, but now you've become it." Tears welled in her eyes. "I loved you," he nodded, "and I will always love you." Then he kissed her, soft, quiet, final dot. and when he pulled away, the dagger was already in her heart. Dragon's scream shattered the sky. The dragon's roar shook the stones, the throne, the heavens themselves. He nudged Daenerys' body once, twice, then let out a sound no one had ever heard. Mourning, grief, and rage. He didn't burn Jon. He burned the throne, melted it into slag, until nothing but a puddle of metal remained. Then he took her body in his claws and flew away, disappearing into the horizon. The last dragon with the last Targaryen. Weeks passed. No one knew where Dragon had gone. No one saw Daenerys again. The lords and ladies gathered at the dragon pit. There was no king, no queen, just silence. It was Samwell Tarly who spoke first. Let's choose someone who doesn't want power, someone who carries it like a burden, not a prize. And it was Sansa who said the name, Bran, the boy who could not walk, who had seen past and future, who did not desire crowns, or vengeance, or blood. And so Bran the Broken was named king.